Naturally, I did not expect it. It came as a shock yesterday.
Also today, from Baghdad.
I'm Shaima Khalil. Today I'll be speaking to an Iraqi family about how they maintain a sense of normality in one of the most dangerous cities in the world.
We'll ask a Harvard professor, has he really discovered the elixir of youth? And also today, counting penguins, today and 100 years ago. And first, we'll have a bulletin of the latest world news.
BBC News with David Austin. In Russia, the former tycoon Mikhail Khodorkovsky has been freed. President Putin has signed a decree pardoning his former political opponent on humanitarian grounds because his mother is ill. Oleg Boldarev reports from Moscow.
After serving 10 years in prison, Mikhail Khodorkovsky is no longer a prisoner. President Putin did as he promised on Thursday and signed a decree pardoning a man who was once Russia's richest businessman and, it seems, the president's personal enemy. But as Mr. Khodorkovsky prepares to leave the prison in the remote northern region of Karelia, his lawyers, his family, and the rest of the Russian public are no wiser as to why the pardon came so late, just 8 months before the end of his sentence.
There are reports of further clashes in South Sudan, which President Obama says is at risk of descending into a civil war. Our Africa editor, Richard Hamilton, has more.
The UN says South Sudanese soldiers from rival ethnic groups clashed overnight at an army barracks in Unity State, the main oil-producing region. It said the fighting was between Nuer and Dinka soldiers in a village outside the town of Bentiu. It said 34,000 people are seeking refuge in UN bases in the capital Juba, in Bentiu, and in Bor, the capital of Jonglei State. Thousands are reported to be fleeing, and foreign nationals are continuing to be evacuated. A UN worker waiting to be flown out of Juba spoke of women and children being mown down on the streets and trucks going around picking up bodies.
Parliament in Uganda has passed a controversial anti-homosexuality bill, increasing the punishment for homosexual acts to include life imprisonment. The legislation, described by activists as draconian, also makes it a crime not to report gay people. Catherine Biaruhanga reports.
The proposal of this bill led Uganda to be called the worst place in the world to be gay. Human rights activists say it highlights the intolerance and discrimination the gay community faces here. First tabled back in 2009, the proposed law caused such backlash that it languished in parliamentary bureaucracy for 4 years. It's planned to introduce the death sentence for homosexual acts, but this has now been scrapped. But the government knows there will be an international outcry, which could lead to the suspension of some aid.
The Indian government has filed a petition in the Supreme Court asking it to review its decision to reinstate a 19th century law that criminalizes homosexuality. The government asked the court to review its judgment, which was handed down earlier this month, saying it believed it violated the principle of equality. Hundreds of gay activists have staged protests throughout India against the ruling, which means same-sex couples could face jail for living together. The Supreme Court has said it's up to Parliament to change the law. This is the World News from the BBC. Reports from the Syrian city of Aleppo say government airstrikes have continued for a 7th straight day. Hundreds of people, including women and children, are said to have been killed in a week of bombardment by low-flying helicopters, out of which barrels of explosives were rolled. The European Commission says concessions offered by the software giant Google, following complaints that it abuses its dominant market position in the internet search market, are not acceptable. The EU Competition Commissioner Joaquin Almunia said Google's latest proposals did not eliminate concerns regarding competition. South Africa's largest trade union says it will no longer support the governing ANC. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, which has more than 300,000 members, made the announcement at its special congress. The ANC has won every election since 1994, but has come under fierce criticism recently over issues such as unemployment and corruption. Here in Britain, 2 former assistants to the celebrity cook Nigella Lawson have been found not guilty of defrauding their boss and her ex-husband Charles Sarchi. Elisabetta Grillo and her sister Francesca had been accused of spending more than $1 million on luxury items for themselves on credit cards that their employers had given them. Angus Crawford has this report from the courts in West London.
The 2 sisters claim they were part of the family and that their loyalty went beyond love, but they were accused using their company credit cards to buy themselves nights in five-star hotels, first-class travel and designer clothes. They said Nigella Lawson was a habitual drug user who was scared of her husband, but that she approved every purchase, in part to buy their silence. The TV chef admitted she had occasionally used cannabis and cocaine, and that her marriage had been unhappy, but told the court she did not authorise the spending.
Angus Crawford reported. That's the latest BBC News.
You're listening to the BBC World Service. This is Owen Bennett-Jones with News Hour. Lots coming up today, including some clever computers.
The answer to everything is life, universe, and everything.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Yes?
Revealed later. Now, it's never easy to measure these things, but back in 2004, Mikhail Khodorkovsky was widely considered the wealthiest man in Russia, and according to Forbes, the 16th richest on earth. He had it all, except that lurking beneath all that wealth were political views, maybe political ambitions that were not welcomed by President Putin, and the billionaire became a prisoner. But for some reason, today he's been released. Why? And will the release make any difference to Russian politics? It has been quite a life so far. Communist, oil tycoon, banker, liberal oppositionist, prisoner, and now? Well, we'll see. President Putin has said he signed the decree of pardon because Khodorkovsky's mother is ill. She said she's finding it difficult to contain her excitement.
You see, you have to come to terms with any joy, with any news, no matter how joyful it is. I have probably not quite come to terms with it. My heart is fluttering so much that I have taken sedatives to calm my nerves. Naturally, I did not expect it. It came as a shock yesterday.
Well, Sergei Markov is a public spokesman for Vladimir Putin, former MP. Speaking to NewsHour about 12 hours ago, he said Khodorkovsky sent a letter with a request for a pardon to the Kremlin in secret.
Khodorkovsky sent his approval, recognition that he is guilty, and he is asking of amnesty for Vladimir Putin secretly, because Mikhail Khodorkovsky understood now that his main enemy is his team of lawyers. So Khodorkovsky secretly asked Vladimir Putin for amnesty because Khodorkovsky afraid that his team of lawyers, who is under the control not of Khodorkovsky but some other people, that these lawyers will undermine his appeal.
So, sounds like a deal of some sort was done. Let's try and unpick it and see what details we can work out. BBC Russian Services' Oleg Boldyrev is in Moscow joining us now. So, first of all, where is he at the moment?
Well, the latest we're getting, and the Russian prison service is certainly not in the mood to dish out large chunk of information, is that Khodorkovsky is actually heading to Germany. The prison service has been quoted by Russian RIA agency saying that Khodorkovsky is intending to join his mother, who, as we understand now, there is either convalescing or is on therapy. Whether this is indeed the case, we don't know. The information has been coming in very, very small increments. For a while, we couldn't even establish whether Khodorkovsky left the country. How was he able to obtain a passport necessary for travel so quick? Again, this makes this case very, very special. I must say, Sergei Markov, which we've heard earlier, I doubt that he's an exclusive sort of information. We don't know what kind of deal and whether there was actually any deal to speak of.
Do we know where Mikhail Khodorkovsky's mother is?
Well, I'm just saying, looking at the prison service press release, saying that she is in Germany. He flies there too, so apparently he's going to meet her mother there.
Yeah, because we just got that little bit of her speaking from Russian TV. We're trying to find out where Russian.
We spoke to her yesterday. We called the Russian mobile. Apparently didn't ask, assuming she was in Russia. Well, indeed, maybe she's not.
I see. Right. Well, that sort of half answers that. So she's on the end of a Russian phone, but that doesn't mean she's in Russia. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. And well, I mean, are you getting the impression? I mean, we're in speculation now, I think, but that this is a deal to be in exile.
could be everything. The news came so strange and so surprising and so unexpectedly after this lengthy press conference Mr. Putin gave. Somehow he felt he needed urgently to pass the message that Khodorkovsky is to be released. A Russian daily called Kommersant, well informed, quoting some sources saying that security services visited Mr. Khodorkovsky in prison recently and sort of had a conversation. What was the conversation? Was he compelled to send this letter? We know that a few weeks ago there were indications a representative for Russian law enforcement started talking about a potential new court trial for Khodorkovsky with some new massive accusations of some infringements. Whether this was a leverage for him finally asking Mr. Putin for pardon. Let's remember, for years he's been publicly refusing to do so, knowing that this was sort of will mean that he's admitting his guilt, which he never did.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. And are you expecting, what are you hoping for now to sort of clarify the picture? You'll be hoping for from the Russian state, basically, as to why they've done it and where he's going to live and that sort of thing.
Well, Russian state only publishes what it wants to publish. All the requests for interviews or any sort of coherent information as to what's happening normally go rebuffed very, very quickly. I expect any more information when the Khodorkovsky's family sort of get together and get a line out. We're trying to get in touch with Khodorkovsky's son, who is in America, as we understand. He said he will not be accessible, will not be answering the questions as to the fate and destinations of his father.
Okay, thank you. You might like to listen to this. Reuters, this is their latest. Former oil tycoon Khodorkovsky left Russia for Germany, Reuters is saying, after his release. Yes, the prison service said on its website that Khodorkovsky had requested documents enabling him to leave the country and left on a flight for Germany. The German Foreign Office said it won't comment. Well, that's the latest from Reuters, and pretty much in line with what you're telling us as well. So thank you very much. Let's hear now from Neil Buckley of the Financial Times, who has followed this story over 20 years.
Well, I first met Khodorkovsky about 20 years ago. He came over to London in 1991 when he was a young businessman and probably already worth several tens of millions of dollars. And several people from the Financial Times met with him then to talk about his plans. We never, of course, realised that he would be a multi-billionaire within the space of less than a decade after that.
Yeah, right. And well, you've written lots about him over the years, so I'm